Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this video lesson. We're going to talk about strings and the chapter in the future. If I'm showing this to a future video lesson or future class and I don't have this particular textbook, I'm sure your current textbook will have a table where it lists some of the different properties or methods or functions that are available for strings, such as determining if a particular string contains a particular substring, and or if it starts with a particular chunk of string, so forth and so on. So on your current textbook, there's a really good section over here in Chapter 8 talking about some of the different tools that are available, and it's those tools that I'd like to at least go over some of them and show you how they work. So let me go over here to Visual Studio, and I'm going to create a new project, and specifically I'll create a C# project, and we'll say Windows Forms Application, and over here I'll type in C#. This has to do with strings, and I'll just call it methods. Methods or functions, those words mean the same thing. They're synonyms, methods of string. So you can see some of the different items that are available for you to use. Alright, so the first thing that I'll do is to open up the toolbox, and I'll just tap over here on button, tap on label, tap on text box. And now I'm going to open up the properties panel, and I'll select these three, and I'm going to change the font to 12 points. Okay. And what I want to do is I want the user to be able to enter something, a text, and then we're going to be modifying that text in some way. So I'll just unselect and then reselect this label, move it up to the upper left-hand corner like that, and we'll just simply say enter. I'll set enter a value, but I also want to be able to enter more than just simply one string. So enter a value. I'll just leave it like that, even though it might not be syntactically correct, because I want the user to maybe enter the first name or their last name, so forth and so on. So I'll just go ahead and put the text box over here, give a little bit of space for that. Let me go ahead and put a button over here and rearrange that button. And this will just simply be a submit button, so we'll just type in the word submit. And then of course I'm going to put a label down here to capture whatever those results are. So I'll just select this label, copy and paste, which is Control-C, Control-V as in Victor. Auto size false, border style fixed single, just like we've done in the past. And I'll just simply move this label up like this. Maybe give it a little bit more space. I'll use the arrows on the keyboard to move it down a little bit. Something like that looks good. I don't actually, you know what? I typically have the text inside of the label. I typically have it centered, but because there is going to be an experiment involving spaces, I think I'm going to leave it like this just for the time being, so that you'll see if I do have any initial spaces at the beginning of the string, you'll see what that difference looks like. So I'm going to leave it like this, where the text is on the top left, and then of course I got to get rid of the text. So I double tap over here, get rid of the text, and let me go ahead and close the form. That looks pretty good right there. You know how I hate the minimize and the maximize box, so I'll double click over here, double click over here, turn both of those false to get rid of the minimize and the maximize box. And instead of form 1, let me go ahead and type in strings, or how about this, methods of strings. I'm not going to be able to go through all of the different methods, right? That's what these guys are. These are all methods, string dot something. So we're going to take a look at some of those, not all of them. And then you can refer to your textbook to check out any of those other particular methods that you can use. Okay. So let me go ahead and go back over here to the top so that I can select this particular text box and change its name. So over here in the name property. And I'll just simply change that to txt user entry. So txt user entry. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see txt user entry. And then, of course, we have a button right below it. We'll call that btn submit. So over here, this guy, we'll say btn submit. And then, of course, we have a label below that. We'll just simply call that LBL result. So for this label, let's say LBL result. All right, so let me just double check my work. I have a txt user entry, btn submit, LBL result. Looks good. I don't need the toolbox, so let me just minimize that. I'm going to click Save All, make sure that all of the items are saved. And then I'm ready to double click on the button so I can start the code. So I'll double click here. I don't need the properties panel, so I'll minimize that so that I can just see the code by itself. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and create a string. And I'll just call it my string. And I'm going to set that to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, say for example. Don't forget the semicolon at the very end. And let's go ahead and work on some of these different functions here. What would happen if I did this? Let's say that I take my string, and I'm going to assign it to my string dot, and let's see what happens when we use this remove function. Okay, so what does remove do? It says returns a string, a new string, in which a specified number of characters in the current instance beginning at a specified position have been deleted. Okay, so let me go ahead and type in 2, and you'll see there's 2 flavors over here. It's the second flavor that I'm interested in. So over here it says start index. So in other words, what is the position, right? The position that we're going to begin deleting the characters. And then this next item over here indicates the number of characters that we want to delete. So let's see what happens if I type in the number 3, say for example. Okay. And again, just to remind you, you can think of a string as an array. So let me just type a comment over here, and then I'm going to do a lot of copying and pasting here. Like that, and let me get that space, copy and paste, C, D, E, F, G, say for example. Type in overtype, and I'll just type in some of these numbers like index 1, index 2, so forth and so on. So let me remove the overwrite, and then the A is stored here in index 0, the B is stored in index 1, so forth and so on. So this is referring to the string above, right? This string over here. This is how it's stored. Where is that A located? Well, it's located at index 0. Where is that G located? Well, it's located at index 6. Okay, which you could think of a string really as a character of arrays, or an array of characters, I should say. Okay, so if I said for this particular string, remove starting at position 2, so that would be at position 2, the next 3 characters. So we're talking about getting rid of C, D, and E, and notice what would be left, A and B, and then F, G. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and place into the label, let me get rid of the caps lock, LBL, label result.text, and we'll just simply put into it whatever the string value is, my string. Notice that I don't have to do any conversion like convert.toString because this thing is already a string, so it's going to simply display it on the label. All right, let me go ahead and start the program. Give it a couple seconds, and I'll move this over here. Now, notice that the user doesn't have to enter anything. I've already assigned what the string is. So all I have to do is simply press submit, and you'll notice over here A, B, F, G, which is exactly what it's supposed to do, because starting at position 2, remove 3 characters. So starting at position 2 or index 2, remove these 3, and then you'll see what happens is A and B and F, G are left over, and that's why you see this over here. So that's how remove works. You're literally just taking out characters at a particular position, and also indicating how many you want to remove. What if I change this to just the number 1, say, for example? Well, then what's going to happen is I'm just going to get rid of that 1 character at position 2. So let me start. And again, I'll go ahead and click, and it says A, B, C is removed, D, E, F, G are remaining. Why? Because at position 2, let's get rid of 1 character. Okay, so it's that 1 character right there, so C is gone. Okay. All right, so that's how remove works. Let me now comment this out, and I'll type in a line below it. I'll say my string. And what are we going to do? We're going to assign my string to it. But this time we're going to use this insert. So there it is, insert. What does this thing do? Returns a new string in which a specified string is inserted at a specified index position in the instance. So you'll see over here that I have 2 variables that I have to consider here. The first is, where is my starting position in terms of the index, and what is the string value that I want to insert? Well, let's say that I want to do this. I want to put a parentheses, and I'm going to say starting at index 0, comma, and the string value will simply be, let's say, for example, the letter Z. And then don't forget to put the semicolon at the end of that statement. So insert is simply going to insert the letter Z at a particular location. Let me go ahead and run that, see what it looks like. So again, all I have to do is just simply click submit. And there it is. Z is added or inserted to an already existing string. You'll notice that A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they still exist. All I did was to put a string or the letter Z at the very beginning. What if I don't want to put it at the beginning? Let's try a different number, like, for example, the number 1. Over here and see what happens. So notice over here A is in index 0. Index 1 has the letter B, but because I'm inserting Z at index 1, notice how everything is pushed and then Z is inserted right after the letter A. Okay. Stop the program. All right, so that's how this works. Let me go ahead and comment this out. And let's talk about another aspect of strings. Let's say, for example, my string, and we're going to say my string dot pad left. What is this? I have pad left. I have pad right. Let's see here. Returns a new string that right aligns the characters in this instance by padding them with spaces on the left for a total, for a specified total length, that is. All right, and then notice what the parameter looks like. Over here, it looks like I have to insert an integer and give it a total width. So, in other words, the total width that I give to it, everything is going to be bumped to the right, and then everything before it is going to be flooded with spaces. So let me give you an example of that. So I'll say pad left. Clearly, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, what is that? 7 characters. But what I'll do is I'll just simply put 15, say, for example. So what that means is, out of 15 characters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G is going to be shoved all the way to the right, and spaces are going to exist before it. All right, so let's see what happens when I run the program. And again, I'll just click submit. Notice that it's no longer on the left-hand side. This thing has a certain number of spaces, as you can see here. Okay. All right, so for me, just for my benefit, making sure that the appropriate number of spaces were inserted, I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go back over here to the design, and I want to change the font over here to a monospaced font. Now, there's a difference between non-monospaced and monospaced fonts. Monospaced fonts means that all of the widths of each of the different letters is the same. For example, if I typed in W and I, The W obviously is a wider letter. The letter I, it doesn't take up that much width. But if you change it to a monospaced font, like Courier New, so let me go ahead and tap up here and select Courier New. Courier New is referred to as a monospaced font. That means all of the letters have the exact same width. Okay. So that's the first thing that I'll display over there. And then the next thing I want is maybe a bunch of numbers over here and the label to be displayed. So I can just simply go to the code area for that. So we'll do something like this. We'll say for the text, we'll have something like this. We'll say, let's go ahead and output like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Just 15 is fine. Because that's what I'm doing over here. I'm padding 15. Close that. I am going to concatenate that with, but first I want to go to the beginning of the next line. So I think it's environment dot and the new line. And then I'm going to concatenate that with whatever the string is. So what I'm doing here is I'm just simply displaying a bunch of numbers over here. And then I want to go to the beginning of the next line. And then I'm going to concatenate whatever my string is. And as you can see here, my string is modifying this string over here. It's adding this to a total of 15 characters in terms of its width, and flooding the beginning part with spaces. Well, let's see what happens. So I'm running the code. There's the code down there. Click submit. Oh, nice. So you see what happens is pad left, in other words, is saying on the left-hand side of the string, pad it with, in this case, spaces. Now, how many spaces total do I want? I want a total of 15 spaces, and that's why you see 15 spaces. This is being padded over here on the right-hand side. Okay. Well, what if I had a different string length, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K? Just for fun, I'll add some extra letters, and let's see what happens. So you'll notice that, again, everything gets shoved over to the right-hand side, and I'm padding it, in this case with only 4 letters, or 4 spaces, rather, because that's all I need in order to be able to move everything over to the right-hand side. So I'll go ahead and return this back to, I think I had up to G. Run it again. And as you can see here, everything is being padded to the left. So in a similar way, you can also use pad right in the same way. You just simply give it how many spaces the whole string is supposed to take. But what pad right does is it moves everything to the left-hand side and then pads after that with a bunch of spaces. Okay? All right. Let me change my string so that now I'm going to have, well, first of all, let me comment this out. And I'll comment this out. And I'll change my string so now that it's going to say a happy new year. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll say my string, and what we'll do is we'll say that's going to be assigned my string dot index of. What does this do? Index of reports the zero-based index of the first occurrence of the specified Unicode character in this string. So you'll notice over here that it's looking for a character value, and it's going to return a number. All right, so in this case, I shouldn't have necessarily set this to my string because it's returning a number, as you can see here. It's returning an integer. So maybe I need to create another variable before I finish this and then retype this. So I'll just simply go over here and I'll say int my index. So let me create that first. And then this guy over here, instead of being my string, I'll say my index. Because that's what this thing is going to return. It's going to return an integer. So then when I say index of, here we go. See this int right here? That's telling you that this function returns an integer. So I'm going to put that integer into my index. All right, so index of, and then parens. Looks like I've got, what, 9 different flavors over here of how I can use this. So it looks like I can enter a character, or I can enter a string, or I can enter a character and a starting index, so forth and so on. Well, I'm going to use this version right here. I just want to find out, hey, where does the word new? So I'm going to type in over here, where does the word new start? Or what's the index of that word new? All right, so let's see what happens here. Now, you know over here from this Happy New Year string that you just typed, that's index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like beginning at index 6, that's where the word new begins. That's what I'm saying that index of is going to do. It's going to find a particular position for you. All right, so let's see what happens when I run the program. And let me go ahead and click. Oh, what I forgot to do, sorry about that. I can't run the program yet because I forgot to output that. So I'll just do this. I'll say lbl result.text is going to be convert dot to string, and then whatever my index is. So that's a number, specifically an integer. Let's convert that to a string and put that into the text property of this variable, of this label called LBL result. All right, let's see what happens. So now let me run the program. And again, I'll just click submit. Okay, the number 6 appears there. Why? Because we are trying to locate the index of the word new. That is at index position, the letter N that is at index position 6. So notice that even though I typed in the word new, it's only going to return the first number, and necessarily that has to be where that letter N begins. And it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The space is 5, and we have 6 over here. Okay. So maybe I'm looking for a space. So I would do this, locate a space. So do you see how I put a quotation mark with a space in between? Well, if everything works out correctly, that should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see what happens when I start the program. Yep, at position 5. Now, it didn't find the second space, right, which is over here after the word new. I could do that. I could say locate the space after position 5, or starting from position 5, or starting from position 6, I should say. Then it would locate that second space. But in this case, I just wanted to locate that one space by itself. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out. And let me comment this out. Space here. And this guy over here, I'll tab it over a little bit. All right. Now, let's just give you a reminder of how substring works. So let's say that I take my string, and I'm going to assign to it my string and substring. What does this guy do? Retrieves a substring from this instance. The substring starts at a specified character position and continues to the end of the string. Okay, so that's what the general definition is. But like all of these other functions or methods, they have a bunch of different versions or flavors. So for example, if I were to enter a parentheses, you'll notice in this case I have 2 different versions or flavors of substring. The second one is the one that I'm interested in. Notice that that first number is an integer that says, where are you starting from? And then this second number is, okay, how many characters do you want to grab? So what substring does is it grabs from a string a certain number of characters. So for example, if I typed in 1, 1, and again, don't forget to put the semicolon at the end of that statement. So if I typed in 1, 1, all right, so here I am with happy. Let me go ahead and return this back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I'm changing the string back to what it was before. And if I'm starting at position 1, well, you see over here, that's the letter B. And I'm only grabbing one character. Again, I'm just going to grab that one letter B, and then I'm going to set that to the output. So what I'll do is I'll just simply say LBL result .text is going to be whatever my string is. So substring, grab one character starting at position 1 or index 1, which is right here. So let's see what happens. I'll run the program. So that's why it returns the letter B, because B is located at index 1. Now, I don't only have to grab one character. Perhaps I want to grab several characters, like grab 3 characters starting at position 1. Okay, let's see what happens here. So it's going to grab B, C, D, and that makes sense because starting here, the next 3 characters, B, C, D, that's what's going to be sent to the string. Okay, so that is how substring works. You're just grabbing characters starting at a particular location. So I'll go ahead and comment this. Oops. There's an example of how to use substring. And how about trim start? Okay. So let's say, for example, that I have a bunch of spaces at the very beginning of my string. So let me have you go over here to my string and enter some spaces. I don't care how many. Let's say that I'm going to type in some spaces over here. And you don't want those initial spaces there. You want to get rid of those spaces until we reach whatever the string content is. So over here, I'll type in my string. And what I'm going to do is I'll say my string dot trim s start. What does this thing do? Removes all leading occurrences of a set of a set of characters specified in an array from the current string object. Okay, so if I type in this and then parentheses, and in other words, what's it going to do? It's just going to remove the initial spaces by itself. So I'll go ahead and put semicolon over here. You see that I've typed in a bunch of spaces for my string. So let me start, and when I submit, notice that those spaces have been removed. Now, let me get rid of this guy just temporarily, just to show you what happens. And what if I got rid of that statement, and I just simply said, okay, take my string and send it to the text property of the label? Well, you see it's going to have a bunch of spaces at the beginning over here, right? Because I inserted those spaces right here. So to get rid of those, that's the beauty of trim start. In other words, you can think of this as get rid of the initial spaces. So I run it, and it got rid of those initial spaces. Now you'll notice that there's a couple of different trim functions. Dot trim. Okay, so it says, trim, there we go. Trim or trim end, say for example, removes all the trailing occurrences. So if I had, say for example, this guy over here, and if I had a bunch of spaces after it, like this, and I want to get rid of all those spaces after it, then I would use trim end. So just getting rid of those initial or trailing edges, or spaces, I should say. So in this case, we just simply said trim start, open and close parentheses. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and comment that out. Now, what if I want you to change the string over here where it says my string, and we'll just simply say dollar symbol and $1.23, say for example. And what I want to do is I want to grab the number. You know that if you were to capture this string and try to turn that into a number, you can't do that because of that stupid dollar sign at the very beginning. So we got to get rid of the dollar sign, and then everything else is fine because that's the number, $1.23. So what we'll do is I'll simply say my string. And what we're going to do is we're going to assign to it my string. We're still going to use trim start, but one of the things that we can do is we can indicate what we want to get rid of in terms of the trim. So parentheses. Again, you'll notice over here that this is saying that we can take characters. And so what I'll do is character has to be a single quote, not a double quote. And then get rid of that dollar symbol from the very beginning, and then semicolon. So what this is basically saying is from the string, get rid of the dollar symbol from the my string, and then we're going to retain everything else. So if I click start, run the program, there's the $1.23 as you can see here. What if I had several of these? So let's see what happens. Actually, I can't do that because this only can be a character, so it's just getting rid of one of those characters. But what if I did this over here? $2 symbols. What would that do? So again, got rid of the dollar symbols, right? Because that's what we're saying, get rid of the dollar symbols. Now, what if I had something like this? Okay, so I have dollar symbols, and then I have a hashtag, say, for example. Well, I didn't say get rid of the hashtag. I said get rid of the dollar symbols, so that's why it's not going to get rid of the hashtag, right? You would have to write another trim start statement that says, hey, get rid of the dollar symbols, get rid of the hashtags, get rid of, any of the punctuation marks that you don't want. In this case, I had this, and so it's going to get rid of just that particular item by itself. And so forth and so on. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different functions that you can take a look at for strings. They're all available, either whether you take a look at your textbook or if you take a look at some of the different functions. We took a look at substring already, and there's just a bunch of really cool items. Inserting an item, removing an item. I think we've used this in the past. Convert all of your text to a lowercase, convert it to an uppercase. Trim start, trim end. Trim is very similar to that. I think that's it here. So again, there's just a bunch of different methods that you can use, or functions that you can use to help you when it comes to string manipulation. Okay, and that's it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.